Hello everybody, I'm Huy and I'm a lecturer in finance at RMIT Vietnam. Today I will talk about the sustainable finance in the age of global warming. Global warming and its consequences have become a serious international issue, resulting in various international treaties, agreements, and regulations. And they are all aimed to increase the awareness of the protection of the environment. With regards to global warming and climate change, several environmental regulations have been implemented by various countries in an effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. If we look at the European Union, for instance, the EU can arguably be considered as the leader in reducing greenhouse gas emissions because they have employed the largest emission trading scheme in the world. The EU emission trading system operates in all EU countries, plus Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. The scheme limits the emission from 11,000 heavy energy-using installations, including power stations and industrial plants. It also covering all airlines that are operating in these countries. And the scheme covers around 45% of the EU total greenhouse gas emissions. The European Union Emission Trading Scheme represents a cornerstone of the EU climate policy, and it works on a cap and trade basis in which each firm has a limited number of emission allowances. If a firm over emits, it will have to buy more allowances on the market, and the price of these allowances will be determined by the market's demand and supply. The emission trading brings the flexibility that ensure emissions are cut where the cost is the least. And the scheme will also provide a robust carbon price that promotes investment in clean and low carbon technologies. So with these ideas of cost savings and emission trading in mind, how can we, as finance practitioners and academics, can use finance to solve environmental issues? First, let's discuss the concept of sustainable finance. In the EU definition, sustainable finance generally refers to the process of taking due account of environmental and social consideration when making the investment decisions. And that leads to an increase in investment in the longer term and sustainable activities, in which environmental consideration refer to the climate change mitigation and adaptation, as well as the environment as a whole and its related risks, such as natural disaster. While in Australia, it has another name. When the finance principles are used to tackle environmental issues, it is called environmental finance. Regardless of the name in different regions, environmental finance or sustainable finance covers various areas such as corporate social responsibility, public environmental investment, carbon trading, green bonds, socially responsible investment funds, water market, corporate environmental performance, crowdfunding of renewable energy projects, with the ultimate goal is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and achieve sustainable growth. So, how do these ideas of combining finance and environment work exactly? One aspect to look at this a interesting combination is to examine the effects of the environmental regulation on the polluting sectors. Environmental regulations are designed to force the firms to cut down their carbon emission. And from the firm's perspective, especially who are polluting a lot, they will have to find a way to reduce the carbon emission. And that might have an impact on the cost, at least in the short term. And these costs will be reflected in the firm's profits, and subsequently, they can have a negative impact on the stock price. So this practice will help the regulators in identifying the real effects of the environmental policy on the firms. And if they find this policy ineffective, they can amend them accordingly. Also in the speech today, let's just take the environmental regulation and various sectors in Germany, for example. The famous Kyoto Protocol that we all know about is the predecessor of the Paris Climate Agreement, which I'm going to discuss in a minute, has failed to accomplish the objective of emission reduction. And there's so many reasons for the failure, such as the missed guidance, lack of appropriate R&D investment, and the absence of the binding legal frameworks. So that is why we're going to have a more advanced environmental policy. And on the Earth Day in 2016, the historic Paris Climate Agreement was signed by the US, China, and over 100 countries. The aim of this agreement is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions continuously and progressively by encouraging the countries to adopt clean technology and make a transition toward a low carbon economy. And according to a research my team did in 2019, several polluting sectors such as the basic resources sector, chemical sector, industrial sector were negatively affected by the Paris Climate Agreement. And this piece of evidence shows that the Paris Climate Agreement is really effective. And of course, we should also note that Germany is also active in the European Union emission trading scheme, which also contribute to the effectiveness as well. Another aspect of sustainable finance that I want to discuss today is crowdfunding or green crowdfunding. Crowdfunding has emerged as an alternative and appealing financing source for both entrepreneurial and non-profit projects because the volume of crowdfunding investment around the world has boomed from virtually zero in 2010 to around 34 billion in 2015. And as both retail and institutional investors have become more aware of the environment, crowdfunding has become a viable alternative for the financing of sustainability-oriented projects. And it allows initiators to collect funds for green initiatives. It also allows small investors to contribute to the reduction of carbon emission and give them the access to the investment that are normally open to large investors only. And the role of alternative finance is crucial for the continuous development of renewable energy projects. Given the long-term horizon of these projects, their technological uncertainty, and the strong dependence of clean tech investment on political and macroeconomic factors. Our international research team find that the pledges are moved by both financial and intrinsic objectives of the projects. And if the projects deliver some monetary or tangible benefit to the local community, they are more likely to reach their funding target earlier. Moreover, we also find that the investor assign a significant value to being a shareholder of green projects. So in the mentioned examples, from both regulators and investor perspective, we can see that they are more and more aware of the environment. So how can they help to reduce the carbon emission as well? While they can achieve some growth and making some profits at the same time. There have been some recent success in moving toward a low carbon world. However, it has always been a rocky road to sustainable growth. The US, the second largest carbon dioxide emitter in the world after China, has planned to withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement, and all procedures will be completed in November this year. And if this situation really materializes, our world may face one of the biggest roadblocks to a cleaner world. So that's all for my talk today, and thank you for listening.